Juraj Slafkovsky is in the Czech Republic working with a breathing specialist to hopefully refine his game. We're going to be talking about some of the impacts of that on Slafkovsky. Plus, the Habs sign Lias Andersson, the former 7th overall draft pick, to a two-way contract. And finally, we're going to be talking a bit about Lane Hutson and David Reinbacher and how they looked paired up in Habs camp. So you don't want to miss what we have to say on this edition of Habs Digest. Let's get right into it, Jesse. The first thing we want to talk about is Juraj Slafkovsky. We haven't heard a ton about Slav, right? We got the development camp going, but he's not with the team. He's in the Czech Republic, or Czechia, however you want to say it, and he's doing some very unique training. So take a look at this. According to Andrew Zadornovsky, Juraj Slafkovsky is currently training in Xhekaj, I think is how you pronounce that, in the Czech Republic with strength and conditioning coach Michal Bretenar, who specializes in, quote, changing the breathing rhythm and removing ineffective breathing stereotypes using integrated physiological training, IFT. So this was very interesting to me, Jesse, and of course I looked at this, I'm like, okay, have any other NHL players worked with this coach before? And I couldn't find much, but what I did find was the positive effects of breathing. Not only can it help, increase focus, it can decrease stress, decrease muscle tension, and I feel like the fact that Slafkovsky is willing to go do this specific type of training really speaks wonders, does wonders to his development for the Habs, especially to compound on his weaknesses that we saw last year.
That's so true. It is nice to see Slav putting in the work and trying different innovative approaches, right, to kind of help his game. And I think we're going to start seeing this a lot more. We're going to start hearing the words strobe technology when it comes to these young hockey players even more, because as we know, the game's gotten so much quicker of late, right? So as the article goes on to say, is that it really takes young players years to kind of acclimatize to that level of conditioning that's really required in today's NHL. So, of course, this is really encouraging for all the fans of Slafkovsky. Of course, we see this all the time, right? Even with really high draft picks, it normally takes a couple years for them to really get up to pace. But it's so nice to see him trying different techniques that seem like very specific to things that are going to help him, like his hand-eye, his focus, his timing, everything else. So it's really cool to see him just getting in there and doing the work that he has to do.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I mentioned, right, you look at some of the benefits that this could have, right? I guess, of course, you mentioned stamina, right? To be in the NHL at this point, you need a ton of it. Slav looked okay on that front, but he definitely did look a little tense on the ice. And you got to think, working in the Montreal media market where the fans and the media are always on you about improving, about doing this and that, maybe there's some stress that comes along with that. I'm sure I'd be stressed. I'm sure almost everyone would be stressed. So hopefully this kind of breathing technique can help him on that front. I mean, we don't know if that's the goal of it or anything, but regardless, it's a pretty cool thing nonetheless. Jesse, let's talk about topic 2 today. Let's get into this signing. Lias Andersson. Of course, the Habs have been very, very quiet so far in free agency since July 1st, and we made the Joel Edmundson trade. A couple of Habs players got lost to other teams, but one guy they just brought in, Lias Andersson. Two-way deal, $775, $450, as in $775 in the NHL or $450 AHL. And he's the former 7th overall pick. Fun fact, Jesse, I know you know this, but maybe the fans don't. He was selected by Jeff Gorton and Nick Bobrov when they were both in New York with the Rangers. Now, looking at his stats here, he clearly has not produced at the NHL level. But Jesse, this really seems like the kind of top-line performance you want in your AHL squad, right? With Belzile gone, I think Richard is gone as well, something like that. You bring in Lias Andersson, who at the very least is going to give you some top-line production in the minors.
Absolutely. He definitely was scoring at a great clip last year in the AHL with the affiliate of the Los Angeles Kings, scoring 31 goals. So like you said, Josh, it's so important to still have that depth. Like these players like Belzile, like Richard, right? Even though they're not playing for the top club, having a very healthy, AHL squad is so important. So having these players that we can really put in our top 6 in Laval is going to be really important. We got a lot of young players obviously coming there as well. So kind of replacing a little bit of that experience at 24, while not being obviously a rookie anymore, is still kind of starting to get into a little bit more of that vet role, probably with the Laval Rockets. So, I mean, a really great addition.
Yeah, I was wondering too, I'm seeing people ask, does he have any NHL upside? And I'll ask you the same question, because to me, I feel like he hasn't proven anything yet. Maybe with the right opportunity he could. Again, he was a very, very good player. He was picked 7th overall for a reason. Of course, there were some attitude issues with him. If you guys remember back in, I think, 2018 when he was playing for Sweden, they won the silver medal. They lost the gold medal game, and he is the player that threw it into the crowd. So I'm sure he's matured since then. But regardless, do you see any world where he ends up playing more than, say, like 10 or 15 games for the Habs over the next few years?
Well, this year is going to be make or break for him, right? Because we do see some late bloomers. But when you kind of start to pass that 25 in the NHL, you're kind of seeing, okay, you probably had a good kick at the can and it hasn't really sunk in. So, I mean, this is going to be really big for him. Obviously, you got to feel like Jeff Gordon, Bob Robb, that they do have some faith in him. So I feel like it's a low risk move, right? It's going to really help our AHL. But at the same time, if, possibly is able to turn it around, it would be great to benefit from that on the big club as well.
Yeah, I saw some LA fans saying he's a solid player. Like maybe they could find some kind of role for him. And at that deal, like you said, low risk. There was no negative to this deal. See how he does in the AHL. Maybe he ends up putting up some goals at a higher level. Let's get into Lane Hutson and David Reinbacher, Jesse. This was maybe the most interesting thing of today. Of course, we're looking at the Habs development camp, looking who's paired with who. We got all the new headshots of the players, the official measurements. David Reinbacher coming in at 6'2", over 200 pounds. Nice big boy, and he's skating really smoothly. But the coolest thing is him paired with Lane Hutson. You can see him here. Hutson on the left, number 81. Reinbacher on the right, wearing number 36. Again, don't know if those will be those guys' permanent numbers. I'm sure they won't be once they eventually come to the NHL later. But regardless, it's still pretty cool. Now, Jesse, and this is a full video clip you can go find on Twitter somewhere. But it's really cool because Reinbacher, to me, looked so smooth skating. A nice poke check here and there. And just having that duo, to me, they scream like the perfect pairing for the future of the Habs. Whether it's first pairing or second pairing, I don't know what you think, but just seeing these two on the ice together gets me excited.
I see this as our top pairing in the future. And why I'm so excited, and actually just seeing this footage, and by the way, they look great together, is that there was so many rumors about Lane Hutson, people saying, oh, he's going to be a bottom pairing defenseman, but just kind of be like a PP specialist, power play specialist, Whereas when I'm seeing this, it's like, okay, maybe they have different plans for him. Really have him as our number one D-man along Reinbacher, because it's really so rare when you have two young defensemen like this that complement each other so well, right? Reinbacher has that size, that defensive capability, but also that mobility to keep up with Lane Hutson, which I find is so important. Probably the number one factor of while they're paired together. Like Lane Hutson needs a guy like Reinbacher, and Montreal needs somebody like Lane Hutson who can really torch it up from the back end. So for me, it's so rare when you get this opportunity. Not only do their talents sync up so well together, but just the timeline that they can play together for so long, really develop that chemistry that's so important as a defensive pairing. So, I mean, this is really amazing to see. And I cannot wait to see it with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people say, well, what are you going to do? Is it going to be Guhle and someone else on the top pairing? Could Guhle and Reinbacher be something too? That's something we're going to have to monitor. But like you said, Jesse, I mean, Hutson and Reinbacher just feels too perfect, right? Again, we'll still have to see them play at the next level. It's far too early to be making predictions for 4 or 5 years out who's going to be our top pairing or not, but at the same time, it's exciting, right? Now, Lane Hutson actually came in a bit shorter than a lot of people thought he would in the official measurements, because if you guys remember at Boston University, we made a video saying how Lane Hutson apparently grew to 5'10". Now, he's still very light, but at Habs camp, he was listed now officially at 5'9" again. So either he shrunk or Boston University just wanted to make him seem taller. Jesse, one final question to kind of end this video off. Do you think Lane Hutson's height is a big issue? I'm seeing some people say the height maybe not so much, because the difference between 5'9" and 5'10" is basically nothing anyway. I mean, 5'9" is Jared Spurgeon height. He's had an amazing career. He's captain of the Minnesota Wild. Hutson maybe could, use a few extra pounds, 10 pounds or so. But I feel like 5'9", especially if you have a big defender on your other side, I feel like you can definitely still play at the NHL level.
Oh, for sure. To be honest, a lot of the way these things are counted is by quarter of inches.
Yeah,
even
exactly.
Connor Bedard is 5'9" and 3/4 inches, and they bump that up. So it's I think it's really played out. And obviously these little things do matter a lot. Probably not so much of the players, but just knowing what it means to scout. So of course, that's something to consider. But for me, I don't feel like in today's NHL, especially when you can kind of insulate them with a guy like Reinbacher, who probably has a little bit more size to kind of compensate, a little bit more space he's taken up on the ice. So, while size does have its place, it's becoming a different game. And that's for just all sports. It's becoming more of a speed thing, right? So, I mean, if you're playing a speed game, you have that skill, that toughness to withstand NHL hockey. I mean, I think that really there's definitely a place for you in the NHL.
Yeah, well, he's still taller than Cole, so he has that. So, we'll see how that translates in the next year or two. That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. You guys have been loving the videos recently. We're over 6,200 subscribers now. We want to hit 7K as soon as we possibly can. Thank you so much for the support. I'm Josh Goss for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.